right, welcome to Talking Investing. I am Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. The FOMC just had their meeting. Jerome Powell just had his press conference. At 2 o'clock, the Fed announced a 0.25 or 25 basis point rate hike. That is what everybody expected. If you've been watching this channel, we have been steadfast in saying that the Fed was going to do 25 basis points and that they really had very little option to do anything other than that. So the main thing that we were going to be looking for is what is the language that they used after that in the press conference, and was that going to move the market? So this turned out to be a gigantic sell the news. All of the equity markets tanked. Bitcoin was down about $2,000 in the last hour and a half of trading of the day. So that was a big drop off. And then if you see the big board here, the Bitcoin miners are red from top to bottom. So, and quite a bit red. Bitfarms was down 12%, Hut 12.5%. Riot was down 10.5%. Marathon was down 12%. Cypher, which has been on a roll this year, was down 18%. So you can see a lot of these are double-digit moves to the downside. And again, these were green 2 or 3 hours ago. Some of these were up 5, 6, 7, 8% in the middle of the day today. So that's what a dramatic turnaround. But obviously, with a quick $2,000 drop off in the price of Bitcoin, the Bitcoin miners pulled back rapidly. Also, please remember to subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, and you can hit the notification bell so that you're notified every time we put a video out. A lot of news is coming out all the time now. And I will tell you, I don't think he said anything to warrant a sell-off in the market. I do think this was just a sell the news situation. I'm going to go through what he talked about, and there was really nothing in there at all that should have been a surprise to anybody. If anything, this was a little bit more dovish than he's talked in the past. He did add one little piece of new language that should have actually eased market tensions. But of course, we did have a gigantic sell-off. If we look across the board, the S&P ended up down 1.65%, the Dow was down 1.63%, the NASDAQ was down 1.6%, and the Russell was down 2.8%. So all of those were in the green at 2 o'clock this afternoon. So you can see they took a big giant turn for the downward after the Fed rate hike. Okay, so I just want to read you a few excerpts from this article. Federal Reserve raises interest rates 0.25% to the highest since 2007 amid bank crisis. If you want to support the channel, you can hit the join button. It's on the YouTube page right next to the subscribe button. You can become a member. There's a lot of member content built up, so you'll get immediate access to that. Membership is $5 a month. We also have a members only live stream every Tuesday, and we have a members only Discord. So we have a great membership. So I appreciate everybody who has joined and all those who are supporting the channel. And again, you're welcome to join us, and it's much appreciated. Okay, the Federal Reserve raised the target range for its benchmark interest rate by 0.25 on Wednesday as it battles stubborn inflation and a banking crisis, which has pushed the central banks into taking its most significant emergency actions since the onset of the pandemic. But let's talk about what he actually said, because so at 2 o'clock, we found out it was 25 basis points. Things were pretty steady for the next little bit. Between 2 and 2:30, there was not much movement at all. We were very sideways. So 25 basis points did not surprise the market at all. It did not set the market off running, and it did not crash the market. It was very sideways. Then when Jerome Powell came out and did his press conference, for whatever reason, that was a catalyst for the market to take a quick turn to the downside. And again, I'm going to go through what he said because I really don't think it was anything he said. I think this was more just a sell the news situation. Okay, in its statement, the Fed said inflation remains elevated and that the central bank remains highly attentive to inflation risks, while banking issues could cause credit conditions to tighten and weigh on economic growth. So there's no surprise there. They're highly attentive to inflation risks. We know that. That's been his absolute number 1 talking point. There's nothing surprising there at all. He then went on to say the U.S. banking system is sound and resilient. So he did talk about putting some confidence into the banking system, because right now the Fed is doing a little bit of talking out of both sides of its mouth. They're raising interest rates, but at the same time, they've come out and made it crystal clear that they are going to backstop these banks. One of the things he said directly was basically your deposits are safe at the U.S. banks. So I thought that was very encouraging talking point. But at the same token, he certainly acknowledged there was a crisis and there is going to be a committee. They're going to do a deep dive on this, look into how this happened. How did we get to this point where banks are failing? He then said recent developments are likely to result in tighter credit conditions for households and businesses. to weigh on economic activity, hiring, and inflation. The extent of those effects is uncertain. It's not good news for the individual, but from an economic standpoint, from a Fed policy standpoint, that would actually tend to indicate that there would be less of a reason to raise rates going forward. Okay, then this article says, notably, the Fed set the stage for ending its rate hiking cycle, doing away with language for, quote, ongoing rate increases in interest rates. So that was really the big change, and that is clearly a more dovish change. Instead, the Fed's statement on Wednesday said, the committee anticipates that some additional policy firming may be appropriate in order to attain a stance of monetary policy that is sufficiently restrictive to return inflation to 2% over time. Translation, and he did later translate this basically after somebody asked him, what exactly do you mean by that? Is he said, you can think in your mind, replace the words ongoing rate increases with there may be rate increases if necessary. So that's backing off quite a bit. Okay, so this is a knee-jerk reaction here. If I go to the futures for the next Fed meeting, which is going to be May 3rd, you'll see this has swung in favor of a 0 basis point rate hike. We are now at 54%. We will keep our eye on this because this is going to change. Last month, there was wild swings. Really, the first month ever where there was just gigantic swings throughout the month as to what the expectation that the marketplace had as to what the Fed was going to do at this meeting. I will say, and those of you who watch this channel, you know I never changed my mind. I said 0.25 in every single video that I've done this month. We'll see next month. He did leave some wiggle room open next month to potentially do a 0 rate hike. So we'll have to think about that and talk about that some more as the month goes on, but that's definitely on the table for next month. Okay, so if I go to Bitcoin on the 15-minute time frame, if you take a look here, you'll see this is when the 0.25 rate hike was announced, and you're going to see we got all the way up to here. So this was a new high. We got up to 28,937 on this chart. I did see 29,000 on some other charts, and that was between the time that the rate hike was announced and between the time that Jerome Powell started speaking. You can see we came right back down to where we were and went sideways. From there, as soon as Jerome Powell started speaking, you can see it was down in a straight line, and this is where the market closed. So the market closed at its lows. So at that point, Bitcoin was down to $26,718. So that's over $2,000 to the downside in just an hour and a half. Now, you can see immediately after the market closed, we started to turn around, and we've made a little bit of progress back in the other direction. We're now up to about 27,180. So if I measure this move from top to bottom, within 1 hour, basically, we were down about 7.67%, almost 8%. And then from the bottom, since the equity markets have closed here in the US, Bitcoin is up just under 2%. So a little bit of a rebound, but again, we're going to have to keep our eye on this. We will definitely look at the charts tomorrow to see where all this shakes out. Okay, just quickly, this is Bitcoin on the 4-hour time frame. So you can see this 1 4-hour candle, and it really was just 1.5 hours of this candle. This was a giant move to the downside. This was after Jerome Powell, during and after while Jerome Powell was speaking. Now we're in the next 4-hour candle, and we seem to be having a little bit of a recovery, but again, too soon to tell really directionally. This is the chaos that I talked about that we oftentimes see on Fed Day. But again, you can see on this 4-hour candle, we did get above this price target and this line of resistance at 28,800. Now, we only candle wicked above it. We did not close a 4-hour candle above it. We didn't even close a 15-minute candle above this. So this was a quick flash to the upside. I think a sign of things to come, in my opinion. We certainly have pulled back massively from that point. We've pulled back over $2,000 in an extremely short period of time. Okay, so just to look at this on a 1-day time frame, you'll see here, this was a 47% run up in, a week and a half. So obviously now today we have a giant red candle. We're kind of in the middle of the neutral zone here. So I do expect to move to the upside or the downside. I don't expect to drift here in this area because Bitcoin really does not hang out in this area. So I would expect overnight and tomorrow to see a move one way or the other, either to retest 25,200, which was a significant line of resistance / support, or to run right back above this and potentially continue this bull run. I think it's one of those two options. I do not think that we are going to go down and go below this purple line at 25,200. So a retest is always possible, and it's typically healthy. It helps all of the technicals reset themselves. So I do think it's possible we could retest the 25,000 area. I really don't think we're going down from here. I don't think this is the end of this bull cycle that we're in. The Fed did not say anything that should have spooked the market, really. If anything, they were a little bit more dovish. They clearly left on the table the potential of not raising rates at all in the next Fed meeting. Okay, so that's what I got for you on the Fed meeting and the press conference and Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners. So thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe to the channel and smash the like button. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you in the next video.